Welcome to the High Ticket Success Podcast, where premium coaches, consultants, and advisors come for bold strategies, big breakthroughs, and real results. I'm your host, Dave Dubow.
Hey, gang, welcome back. Today, we've got a special guest joining us, Christine Campbell Rapin. And Christine is a business growth expert. She's done a lot in this space in a fairly short amount of time. She's worked with hundreds of clients, helped them generate over $1 billion in additional sales. She is a very well-known public speaker, fellow podcast host, and author. So, Christine, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Business growth is elegantly simple. I like the sign you got behind you there, Christine. So maybe give us a little snapshot, if you would. 80-20 it for us. Who do you serve and how do you help them the most? Because I know you do a number of different things, but like what would you say is your specialty and your ideal client avatar?
So I play with the emerging entrepreneurs. I would say the baby business owners. And what I mean by that is those that are still trying to figure out, how do I actually be a business owner versus buy myself a job? What we really know is that nobody really teaches you the foundations of business.
Yeah.
And that's to your detriment. And I made this observation because when I set out to build my own business, that was just my goal, my own business. Mm-hmm. And I kept getting a lot of invitations for coffee or glasses of wine, depending on how you know me socially. And people are like, what the heck are you doing for an hour a day that's getting clients? Because I am not having the same success story. Mm-hmm. And through the conversation, I said, first off, you need to understand how to play the game. And then it's really important that you play the game and play your game. And
so understand what the heck the game is, understand the rules of the game, and then get your rusty dusty in gear and actually do it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Honestly, it is that simple. And most people are like, it can't be. I'm being told all this complexity. I said, you're being sold complexity and scale. I will tell you to scale anything, the simpler it is, the better. Yeah. And inevitably, it led to a conversation where that totally makes sense. I can actually see you do it. And I want more simple because I'm dying over here. Most people are, put your oxygen mask on. And inevitably, it led to, I really can't. I struggle to stay in the simplicity. I struggle to follow up and follow through. And inevitably, it meant people are like, can I pay you to help me? And I was like, that's weird. Truthfully, that was my answer. It's weird. And
so what was your business before it was coaching and helping people? What was the business that you were growing at that point?
Yeah, the first business that I actually started was in the traditional world of product. I was an affiliated person working with a multi-level marketing company, a product that I was really, really a fan of, in an industry I knew really, really well. Mm-hmm. And my goal was to add $30,000 of extra income on top of my corporate career. Mm-hmm. And I was doing that 1 hour a day, and people were like, I don't understand. And I'm like, it takes an hour a day to grow a business. Well, I'm not building $1 million business at that time.
Yeah. Well, hey, for all of us that have taken a crack at network marketing and failed, which is the vast, vast, vast majority of people, that is pretty amazing. Okay, so when you are talking to people now, because I assume, I might be assuming incorrectly, are you still doing the network marketing stuff?
I still have the business because I still have clients in the business.
Yeah, okay.
I don't focus on it, and people know I consume the product, so they ask me about it. But it isn't something I spend any time on. The revenue comes because I built the business.
Yeah.
And people keep saying you could do more with it. I said, I don't choose to. It was the vehicle that got me started. And when I realized that the reason why so many people fail, and whether that's true in multi-level marketing or in traditional, I said, emerging business owners, is because you don't understand that you initially carry all the hats. Mm-hmm. And getting the sequence of what comes first, second, and third matters. And most people really fail from the fact that they're out of sequence. And that's what's become my success story, is building the through line. There is 5 foundations I believe every business on the planet needs. That's my observation of creating $1 billion of single dollar sales. And yet most people really we're never talked about it. People don't really distill it simply. And people don't say, that's a good idea, park it until you have something else running. And if we can get that piece in play, you will find your way, you'll stick to it, you'll win, and you'll step out of the overwhelm. So people
So when you're typically starting to work with baby business owners, Christine,
yeah.
you kind of touched on what the big mistakes are that they're making, but how do you start? Where do you start somebody with? They're already kind of up and going. Maybe they got a few clients, maybe they don't. They're kind of struggling along, putzing around. What's the typical way that you're starting to get them to take action?
Yeah, we start with their strategy. And a lot of people don't build strategy until year 5. That's the problem. So what I mean by that is identity. Who are you? What do you stand for? Where do you want to play? And how will you win there predictably? So we start with that 50,000 piece because every way, whether it's through a complicated tech or a simple conversation, comes down to you must be seen as the must hire. Mm-hmm. You must be seen as a trusted person to guide a result. And I need to choose you if I'm the buyer. And so we start with that really simple question because most people don't know what they're great at, can't communicate it well. Mm-hmm. And without that certainty being built, and it doesn't start from day one, it's built in every conversation, you truthfully become like everybody else. And what's been unfortunate in the last couple of years and accelerating is people are relying on ChatGPT and other tech tools to tell them who they are, what they should sound like, and where to go play. And as a result, we're aggregating into mediocrity faster than a sinking lead weight. And I said, stop.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? And who do you want to serve? And it's really actually a very simple group of questions. Really hard to do it on your own.
Yeah. So let's say somebody's kind of worked with you. They kind of got the 50,000 foot perspective going on there. What do you typically do next? Is it lead gen type stuff, or
it would fall into marketing for sure?
Yeah.
The first thing you need to really understand is what's a buyer. And I use the word buyer because somebody has a credit card and they buy something.
Yeah.
You can use the word client, customer, patient, find your industry jargon here, but you're talking about the person who will exchange money.
Pay for your service. Yeah.
You'll get paid. Shocking. Yeah. Right? That's the goal line. So a real big part of that is understanding that people, buyers, are on a journey of decision making. And I don't think that marketing is sold well by marketing people because they want to tell you, go find a client avatar or an ICP, ideal client profile. I mean, those are helpful things in marketing, but they're not going to help you sell anything because they're not a buyer necessarily. Just because I have the attributes doesn't mean I'm a decision maker who's ready to invest.
Or they need your something. Exactly. Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. So step in the process next is who is your buyer? What is going on? And that's a very 100 layers of onion. But the what is the most critical thing. Instead of answering the how, which is what you want to do, vomit your business at somebody, I need you to get really clear what's happening. Can you spot the pattern? Do you understand the pattern? Can you shift the pattern? Can you move it predictably? And if you can, you will always find a buyer in every economy because there's always a center.
That sounds good, Christine, but maybe it'd be beneficial for me and probably the audience as well. Can you give us an example? One of your clients that you've worked with, it's kind of like your favorite success story around this. They were mucking around like everybody else, chasing avatars and vomiting their...
Give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I serve a lot of creatives because a lot of creatives want to serve the creativity and really hate the business sides of it. So I have a client that when they first came to me, they've been in business 8 years. So this is not a newbie. Still struggling to get to their $500,000, which is really what their goal line is. And I said, well, tell me what you do. So again, the simple question, tell me what you do. I run a marketing agency. I build websites. And I'm like, you and a bazillion other people.
Yeah.
That's not really helpful. You told me like the how that I don't even understand. And as a customer, I'm not going to buy. So one of the things that we've been working on is she's been a client more than a year now, and she's continuing to work with me because we're seeing so much success. She goes in and talks about, we help you identify and own your next big win. Their clients are looking for sales. Their clients are looking for an identity, a marketing element, and they're doing it for a purpose. Their next client. And she said, when I go into a conversation, people say, what do you do? It's like, I help people own their identity to create their next win. Everyone's like, tell me what that means. That is the first piece of movement. And our goal is movement from curious to paid client. They're like, oh, I know somebody who needs a refresh, or I know somebody who doesn't have a good logo, or I know somebody who doesn't have these traditional assets. But she's really clear. All these assets are a through line for the outcome you want.
Mm-hmm.
Swagger,
She's really selling the end result, not the process.
Correct.
To get people there. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the how is where people get lost. And
so
really
how are you recommending to her to get the word out to get those conversations going?
Well, you've just actually given the answer. Mm-hmm. The answer is conversation. Mm-hmm. And this is something that makes everybody uncomfortable because everyone's like, well, how do I not talk to anybody? How do I build this business, in a tech stack, or how do I build it without actually doing any of the work? And I'm like, the work is actually the conversation, especially for the newbie. You can't automate what you don't understand. Mm-hmm. You can't use the right language if you've never had the conversation. So in every business, I'm very old school. Go talk to somebody. And one of our very first entry-level programs is every day I'll tell you what to say to go find somebody new, and we'll do it for 30 days. At the end of it, you'll have a much bigger idea of who you are, what people respond to, and you're also building the muscles of business development. And you're building leads, and then you must lead them somewhere. So for me, it's conversation. And the fastest way to build conversation with people who want what you have is actually just to open your mouth and do it publicly. So I say speaking, but that could be speaking in a networking space, speaking on a podcast, speaking in your own community, get involved in a local group, Chamber of Commerce, something like that. But I said, you have to spark curiosity out loud. And somebody who says, tell me more, puts up their hand. And that way you're never chasing somebody who is not interested. Mm-hmm. And that's what people do. They get caught chasing the uninterested. I said, louder isn't better. We're not in New York City for most of us.
So what I'm hearing you say, Christine, is old school is the best way to get started, which I agree. And it sounds like it's like create that curiosity. Back in the day, we used to call this your elevator pitch, your 30-second commercial, all that kind of good stuff. Is that kind of what you're talking about there, that idea?
As long as you're clear when you're making an elevator pitch that it's not about you. Mm. Okay, so when we talked about the example with Christy, like she's about, I'm helping you get the result you want. I'm not telling you what my brand is. I'm not telling you what my logo is. I'm not telling you what my company name is. And truthfully, my name's not even relevant at this stage. And the goal is invitation, because I think the thing that we talk about old school, why it works, is it's slower. Mm. And slower, you got to remember, people are so spun up with the noise, distractions, life stories, that the problem for most business owners, especially the new guys, is they don't trust the simplicity. Yeah. And they forget that somebody to get started needs a small win, and it's really much smaller than you think. And instead, you're trying to sell a unicorn. You're like, I'm trying to sell you a website that's going to cost you $15,000. And they're like, that just is incomprehensible. Yeah. And yet when you realize how it comes together and what you do and why you do it, and suddenly somebody's like, well, that's going to bring me $100,000 of revenue. I'll spend 15. Mm-hmm. I can justify it. And we need to go slower. And it doesn't mean that, that's literal, but it's also smaller bite steps, smaller invitations, and you got to get your ask on. Because in an elevator pitch, if I just make a statement and I don't stir you, you don't move. And then we don't have success.
So sorry, what did you say? You got to get your what on?
Your ask on. Always gets people.
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing. Some people are, you got to get your ask on. I'm going, whoa, I think I misheard that. Ask on. God, that makes more sense.
The funniest thing about leads, and we talk about leads, is like this really common term in marketing. Mm. And most people don't know what a lead is. And they forget that the whole point of a lead is to lead them. Mm. So the ask is intentionally moving somebody. And the stats are big. Like Google had done a study, many years ago now. It was called the 0 moment of truth. Mm-hmm. People are going to research 7 to 12 touch points before they're visible to you. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to investigate in a circuitous way, stop, like whole hokey pokey going on. And then you've got to remember to catch them there, support them there, be congruent with your messaging. And what's beautiful, it feels like a real big win for business owners when that when you have people coming in to saying, tell me about your programs, you're like, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
You know it's working.
Because they've been poking around, checking you out behind the scenes.
And you're clear with who you are and what you stand for, which is right there.
Tons, especially the newbie business owner, you're so right. I mean, they're told they should be doing so many different things, right? You should got to be posting on social media, all 87 platforms, 3 times a day. You got to be doing this. You got to be spending money on paid ads. You got to have a fancy schmancy website. You got to do all this kind of stuff. Sounds to me like you're, especially for the newbies, just stripping it down to the essentials and getting the focus on bite-sized chunks, specific things they can do on a daily basis that are going to move the needle.
Especially at the beginning.
So without giving away all your secret sauce, can you kind of maybe tell us a little bit about what that looks like typically for clients that you're working with?
The biggest important thing for this audience is to hold their hand.
Mm.
And that's what makes us very unique in the marketplace, because we are high touch, high service, high support. In every program, we never have more than 20 people in them, because I never want you to be entertained and learn and sit on the back seat. I need you to do this, to move, to learn, to iterate. So for us, what's really important, depending on where business owners are, is let's first off prune out the noise and create the space. And really find out what lane works for you. And that's also different in the marketplace, because a lot of other peers are telling you to do 10,000 things. And you're like, you're not at the same time, bandwidth, or budget to do all the things you're comparing yourself against. And then they tell you, well, the problem is you, which I think is terrible.
What do you do?
I tell people, let's go back to what do you want? Let's go back to what does it look like? Let's go back to what is oxygen for you and how do you want to build your business? And then we audit, what are you already doing? And I have this really bold ask, what's actually working in all the things you're doing?
Do they even know?
The answer is, if you don't know, it's not.
Yeah.
Then there's a whole realization, but I'm doing all this stuff. Like I'm posting out crazy, I'm doing stuff. And I said, if it's not working, it's not effective marketing. Mm-hmm. And we go right back to who's the buyer. And they're like, well, I don't really know. And I'm like, well, the only way you're going to get better at knowing is by upping the conversations. Mm-hmm. And if you up the conversations, because you're going to go through this journey, everybody will go through it. I'm talking to people. Are they my people? I'm making offers. Is it the people who do get the results? Do I love what I'm doing? Just because I can, do I want to? Mm-hmm. And we constantly prune and we constantly shift. And then it's really staying simple. And that's actually one of the hardest stages for an emerging entrepreneur, is to not blow themselves up. So I'm like, just remember, Coca-Cola sells Coca-Cola. They've been selling it for more than 100 years. They don't deviate from that. And when they introduce a new flavor, it's pretty rare. And it's not to cannibalize the original product. It's to remind you why you like the original product. And so we have to remember that while even though many emerging entrepreneurs run away from corporate and all the big things that they do because it feels constraining, there's a time and a place to add some of that back. Simple, repeatable, then we add systems, then we add team, then we solve for capacity. But the biggest challenge for people is, what's actually working? Do you want to do that? And then if you want to do it, let's get better at it. Because
so you've been working with a lot of emerging entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Rule of thumb, what have you found over the last year or two that generally speaking isn't working for most people?
I'm going to say thinking that you're going to sell on social media.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, you think that now, I mean, this is the thing we were taught over the last 5 years. If I post on social media, I have $1 million business. And then it's spun up to 10, 25 billion platforms, but to your point, 3 to 5 times a day. And you're creating so much content, not being a content creator, that it's absurd. Every smart person I know on social media says I make my sales off social media. Do people vet me? Do I need to be present? Yes. But don't expect it to be your selling platform. And if you're going to put creative content out, you have to understand the psychology of the 4 types of creative you create. Because it isn't just about buy my stuff. Because truthfully, less than 2% of entrepreneurs make the $1 million mark. So why are all of us thinking we're going to be posting and making $1 million business? It's totally absurd. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's happening with advertising, I do think gasoline is needed. If you want to grow beyond where you start, you're going to need an accelerant. And that can be a lot of things. Advertising is one of them. But you don't put advertising dollars in place until you have conversations that convert. It's wasting resources. And that's some of the problem. People are like, I'm going to now figure out ads. I'm like, you're not selling anything. Why do you think you're now going to be an ad expert? I'm really clear. I know what questions to ask, but I will hire that because now
because the room changed so much, it's hard to stay on top of that. So Christine, this is good stuff. What about, so do you work, like, are most of the clients you're working with doing stuff locally? What about the folks that are kind of more, getting out and speaking to people one-on-one's a bit more of a challenge? What recommendations do you have for people to create online conversations?
I would say probably 75% of my clients build a lot of their lead gen electronically, even local. Okay, so they might be still local, but they're still doing Zoom calls and convenience that we've learned. I don't have a preference whether you want to build local or international. I personally lived in 5 countries and 30 cities. I have a very global network. It never occurred to me to build on my street. Doesn't mean I don't have clients on my street, but I was not exclusive in my thinking. What I tell people, what is so important is you have to recognize 2 things will grow your revenue and they will predict your revenue. So don't do a million things, do 2. Number 1, you have to recognize your business will be built on strangers. Always. Always. Which means you have to get in front of more people, more ways, more often. So that means being in rooms, whether they're digital or in person, are non-negotiable in my view. Mm-hmm. How many rooms is the conversation of, well, what will you do with the time in them? And where will you take them after? Because it's not just present time, it's all the nurturing, all the conversations, and all of the relationships you must build. But your goal in meeting strangers is to find the buyer. And to know if the buyer is a someday buyer, a current buyer, or I'm on fire buyer, and adjust your strategy and response accordingly. Second thing is nothing moves if you don't ask. Remember, the person who has the problem is more scared than you who are trying to solve it. Mm. And that's a hard headspace because we're really, as an emerging entrepreneur, we're so in our own headspace and we've been taught overwhelm is normal. We've been taught that we don't belong and that we're not enough. If you don't ask, nothing moves. So I always say to people, get your ask on every day. Invite to something. And it doesn't have to be money. It can be invite to a coffee, invite to an event, invite to something, invite to a resource. But if you do, you'll never look for clients. You look for problems to solve, ways you can support, and things you can contribute. When you do that, people are like, I trust you. You're interesting. You're not gaming me. But I do recognize you're a must hire because you've told me that. Tell me what the programs are because I might need more help. And then you're like, great, let's talk about that.
Nuts.
It moves very fast.
So Christine, one of the things I'm hearing between the lines here that I think you're probably very good at is follow-up. And that's something that a lot of the rest of us, myself included, suck at. So,
well, and I think there's 2 things. There's follow-up and follow-through, and they're 2 different things.
Yeah, well, let's talk about follow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow-up. If somebody shows some inkling of, you meet somebody virtually or in person, and there's some interest in your service, but they don't buy immediately. Yeah. What do you have any quick tips or suggestions around follow-up? And maybe am I confusing the terminology with you? That's my version of follow-up. What's the difference between that and follow-through?
Well, the first thing is you have to have a system. And I mean, this is where, again, we get into business and we think, I don't need a system. It's not that complicated. I would tell you the longer you're at this game, the more you're like, well, actually, I'm meeting people. It's just a very natural conversation if you take my first piece of advice, which is get into a new room. Mm-hmm. So even if it's a simple Excel spreadsheet, I don't need you to go spend $15,000 and buy a license for Salesforce yet. It's absurd. But you could start with simple spreadsheets. You need to document some very basic things. And that's one of the things we work with clients a lot on is building a structure to manage the follow through so you know who to follow up with. And part of that is whenever you meet somebody, you have to have a determination of where they sit for you. Are they a potential client? Means like they're asking about the services. Are they a potential referral partner? Are they somebody who could bring strategic audiences to you? And you have to determine that and make note of it. because what you determine should dictate the next step. But have a next step. There's also the follow-through piece.
Oh.
Where are you moving them to? And you got to remember this. If somebody ever puts up their hand and said, I'm curious, and that's our goal of marketing. Simple, simple, simple. Curiosity is the goal. They either have two choices. I can solve the problem, or I can keep it.
Well said.
So if somebody doesn't get to yes, you have one very simple message to them. In lots of different ways you can say it, but have you solved the problem?
Yeah.
It's the simple one. And then what does it cost you, and do you want to revisit that? Because my door is open. Because I still know how to solve that. And my invitation is, when you're ready, let's move. Is today the moment? And when you do that, you will find it gets easier, your conversions get higher, and you just need to run the game, which is, who are you talking to this week?
Exactly. Well said. Very, very well said. Christine, this has been a lot of fun. Lots of golden nuggets there. I'm sure there's going to be people wanting to find out more about Christine Campbell Rapin. Where should they go? What should they do?
I want you to note how simple this is, so don't lose your clients when they're lost in the wilderness. My name is Christine Campbell Rapin. That's Rapin, if you're wondering on the second last name. Come find me at Christine Campbell Rapin. Come on the web, come on any social platform, you'll find me in the same place. And then you can choose your own adventure. But I will tell you this, get your ask on, let's move. Their next client is right in front of you.
Awesome, Christine. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the High Ticket Success Podcast. Want to be featured? Share your story and inspire other premium coaches, consultants, and advisors? Apply now at highticketsuccesspodcast.com/guest.